Reserve. The root of all our evil, it begins with the Federal Reserve. Hey, yeah, well, let's go back in time when everybody was so proud of a man.
I'm Tommy Salmons. This is Year Zero. Today, Jack the Perfume Nationalist joins me. Jack and I met at Renegade University weekend in Lockhart. We hung out, we drank some beer, we had a good time, really enjoyed each other's company. B fell in love with the guy. She just adores him. And we got along really well, and I wanted to have him on to chat about culture, masculinity, and just the shift he sees going on around us. So I asked him to come on. We chatted for about an hour. He had to get ready for work. It was noon Texas time, but he works evenings, so it was first thing in the morning for him. He was drinking his coffee, but it was a good conversation, and I think y'all will really enjoy it. So I'm excited about this episode. As always, RyanBunting.com. For all of your graphic design needs, go to RyanBunting.com. Ryan Bunting is a great libertarian and a great anarcho-capitalist. He's also a great graphic designer. He designed my podcast logo and Pete Quinones' podcast logo for Free Man Beyond the Wall. So go to RyanBunting.com for all of your graphic design needs and check out his book, Project Manicore. It's pretty fucking good. Thank you, Tom Burton, for the music. And as a reminder, don't forget, go to libertarianinstitute.org. It is the fall fund drive. We are trying to finance the Libertarian Institute. Keep the lights on. Keep the writing and the podcasting happening. It's a lot of ings there. And we just need your help. We need your support. We do this for you. We don't have any big donors, unfortunately. Maybe one day we'll get in touch with the Koch brothers or something. But until then, help keep us moving. So go to the libertarianinstitute.org/donate and throw us a few bucks. And if you happen to be one of those crypto millionaires, we accept crypto as well. All right, here's the show. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Recording is in progress. Thank you very much, Fed. I am here with my dude, Jack, the Perfume Nationalist, as y'all have probably heard of him on other podcasts. And this was, I gotta start the conversation like this, Jack. This is probably the oddest pairing ever in the history of pairing people.
Why is that?
I just whenever I imagined meeting you, I was like, yeah, I'm sure he's a nice guy, but I don't think we're gonna have anything in common. and we're sitting there on the patio drinking, and Gord starts walking down the driveway, and I'm like, where the fuck are you going, dude? And he goes, I gotta go get Jack. And I was like, the Perfume Nationalist? He's like, yeah, I'll be back. And I was like, why didn't you take the truck? And he's like, I'll just walk. I was like, you fucking goddamn Canadians. and he keeps going. And I'm like, all right, this is cool. I get to hang out with the guy and like get to know him a little bit. But getting to know you and hanging out with you, I was like, wow, I fucking love this guy. Like you're one of my favorite people I've ever met at any event, honestly.
That is so kind. Thank you. Yeah, it was great. It was great hanging out with y'all. I want to be back at that Friday the 13th house with that little lake. Delightful. I walked up to you when you're doing your little perfume expo, and I interrupted you like so rudely because I just had to let you smell my beard, and then I realized after you said I don't smell anything, I was like, oh yeah, I just went swimming in the pond. Yeah, I also couldn't smell anything because I had just sprayed like Bandy all over a piece of paper, and my hands were wet with it, so that was all I could spray. That was all I could smell, rather.
Yeah. I have a listener though, and that's why I wanted to let you smell it. I have a listener
whose husband makes beard oil and beard washes, right? And I've struggled finding any beard oil that I like. And I was like, all right, I'll order it and I'll see if I like it. And it's all natural stuff and it's really nice. It's tobacco vanilla scented. And it's really nice. And my wife says it's an aphrodisiac, so that's nice. Yes.
Perfect.
Yes. Nothing.
Yeah, it's hard to find a good beard oil. A lot of them have really bad scents, or they're just too greasy or something. But yeah, sounds good.
That's what I found with the balms. I don't like the balms because it like glistens. It looks like I have a Jerry curl.
That could be a good look.
If it was 1970s,
Mm-hmm.
I would wear them bell bottoms.
Just a wet, oily beard.
Right. It looks like I just got done eating like a ton of fried chicken or something. But one of the impressive things about you was you were the only person I have ever met that has ever heard of Lost Highway.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Back in my day, in the early 2000s, everybody was into David Lynch movies during peak DVD era. And I started watching those in like 8th grade and was really preoccupied with and obsessed with them. And they were a huge gateway into the larger world of cinema for me.
Yeah. I guess I ran into David Lynch in the late 90s, and I watched Lost Highway. I think I owned it. Let's see, I was 19 when I got married, so that was 99, 2000. So yeah, I owned Lost Highway in the year 2000 for sure. And I used to watch that movie almost every week, trying to decipher the meaning of that movie. Like, just, I would watch it, and I would watch it so many times, and I would get right there. I'd be like, I know what this is about. And I'd watch it again, and I'd be like, I have no fucking clue what this is about.
Yeah, that one is perfect because he gives you just enough material to really spook your mind and create a really frightening atmosphere. And that one isn't as easily kind of like understood as Mulholland Drive. Yeah. I prefer that one to Mulholland Drive, but Inland Empire, the digital video, like 3-hour one with Laura Dern, is my favorite of those 3 LA movies he did.
Did he do the LA Confidential?
No, that was what's that dude's name? Curtis Hanson.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay. Yeah. Because if I remember right, when was it LA Confidential? Maybe it was a different movie I'm thinking of. Now I'm questioning.
LA Confidential is the like Kim Basinger, Kevin Spacey, like neo-noir movie.
Yeah. That was supposed to be like the bloodiest movie ever to ever be released. Like, they were saying it was like the most violent when it came out. They're like, this is like the most violent movie ever when it first came out. And it was a great movie. I really enjoyed it. It's not that it wasn't a good movie. It just, I didn't feel like it lived up to the expectations that were laid out there by the critics.
Yeah, my friends host a podcast called the Elroy Boys, and they know all about James Elroy, the author of that book. I haven't read any of them because they're all so dense and intimidating. I have one sitting on my shelf right now, but they're all like 800 pages and then like no punctuation and stuff. So I keep like needing the time to explore an Elroy novel for the first time. I remember liking LA Confidential. I was in like 4th or 5th grade when that came out and renting it from like the grocery store and watching it a couple of times. Yeah, lots of neo-noir stuff at that period. But the first time I watched Lost Highway, we were like moving out of my family home and we didn't have any furniture. I just had one of those little TVs with like an 8-inch screen and a built-in VHS player that you could plug into the cigarette lighter of our Suburban. And I remember watching that totally alone on this tiny screen the same night that I first watched Taxi Driver and being scared out of my mind.
Yeah, it's a tripped out flick. I mean, I don't know if you've had a chance yet to watch that movie Chained I told you about.
No, not yet.
Yeah.
I have it on my list though.
You definitely got to watch that. That is such a tripped out flick, and you know, I Beatrix made me promise not to ruin it for you, but I love that fucking movie. I love that. That is one of those movies that. Well, what was going on was I was looking at writing a short story, and I have a collection of short stories I may release this year. It might be next year. I've been saying that since last year, so it might be next year. But I've been working on, and one of the ideas I had for a movie or a short story was about a woman that kidnaps a little boy and raises him to be a serial killer. And I happened to run into this movie Chained, which isn't the exact same, but it was similar enough to where I was like, I want to see this. I want to see what's going on here. And I watched it and I was like, oh wow, that is fantastic. And so it's one of those, it's very psychological because it all takes place pretty much in one place. Kind of like The Killing Jar kind of deal.
Oh, and it's directed by Jennifer Lynch, David Lynch's daughter.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that. I did not know that. It's a great movie. You'll love it.
Yeah, she looks like David Lynch, but with pink dreadlocks.
That's hot.
I can see that appealing to a lot of people. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah, but it was a great movie, and I really enjoyed it. And it's one of those, you know, like B movies that nobody ever hears about that just went under the radar, went straight to DVD, and you're like, oh wow, like people should have been watching this, you know, instead of, you know, whatever the hell they were watching whenever in 2017. I don't know. I haven't watched a new movie in so long. I don't even know what the hell people are watching today because they're so bad. All of them are so bad. And
yeah, there's quite like basically everything is bad, but I've had a weird run of luck lately where I liked several movies in succession. I liked The Night House, and then I liked Malignant. And then I watched something that was dumped on streaming a couple of years ago called ICU with Helen Hunt, which is this thriller that was kind of a victim of COVID fucking up everything's release. It was quite scary and quite good. So I don't know, maybe my standards are just being dragged down from everything being so shitty, but I've been like enjoying more new things lately.
or maybe we're getting into that age to where we look at our children and be like, that's not music, that's just noise. And,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, my brother was saying the other day that he was starting to like bad CGI spectacle movies like King Kong Skull Island. Like we're just getting old.
Oh man, yeah. I don't know. I think the last CGI movie I ever watched was the one with the little blue people. What was that called? It wasn't Narnia. What was it?
Smurfs.
Yeah, it was. They based it. It was the fucking Smurfs. Everybody had a fit over it. It was the little blue people. It was a love story. Yeah. That soldier falls in love with that little blue person. I don't remember. Everybody loved it.
Avatar.
Yes, that. Yeah.
James Cameron.
Narnia, Smurfs, Avatar. What's the difference?
Yeah, all the same thing.
Yeah, I hated it. I was like, this is shit. I'm not watching anything else ever again. So I just live in Ancapistan in my head. Mm-hmm. That's a joke for all my friends out there. So one of the, all right, so it's the $1 million question. You got to answer it every time. You had to answer it to me the other night when we were sitting down chatting, but my mom asked me, she goes, what does Perfume Nationalist mean? So like, give us a little breakdown of why you're the Perfume Nationalist, and then we'll move on.
Well, first of all, I think that for your podcast to work in this scene, you need certain elements. One of which is a title or a concept that is immediately polarizing or enraging to people at face value.
Yeah.
And that title, which was just kind of a joke that my friends and I came up with, and then my brother and I decided to try making a podcast. We just stuck with that. I just envisioned this kind of like Rush Limbaugh radio host called like the Perfume Nationalist. And you know, it's deliberately intended to kind of enrage the person who sees it and doesn't understand what it is. But I mean, also it's true. It is a combination of perfume, and I am, I suppose, a nationalist. But it's also just kind of a joke and sounds good.
Right. Right.
But the concept of the show is that we pair historically appropriate fragrances with different media, with TV shows, movies, books. So you get a discussion of the history of a fragrance and the cultural context that came up in, and then another piece of media.
Yeah. Well, and it is fitting because you are so like you're much more interested or educated. I don't know if probably interested as well and educated on culture itself than I am. I kind of look around and I'm like, well, I'm glad I have 9 acres, a stocked pond, and chickens, because I don't want anything to do with these people. They're all crazy.
I wish I had that.
You know, like that's just kind of the way that's just my mindset nowadays. I left Houston. Beatrix and I left Houston about 7 years ago. And it was like, never going back. I'm never going back to that concrete jungle. I'm not doing it again. I hated it. The people, I think I've heard Joe Rogan say this, and I think there's some value to what he's saying, is that, well, it boils down to like Mises or when you look at value, right? The more of something you have, the less it's worth. And when you have 6 million people living on top of each other, they don't value human life. And there's something about living in a small town, having some property, being off on your own by yourself for the most part, that when you do engage with people, you're not so ornery, I guess would be the best way of saying it. Yeah. You want to appreciate everybody, because I'm a lot more of a people person now than I ever was before. I used to run around like with this, pissed off at the world. I hate people all the time. And I think a lot of that was the atmosphere I was living in.
Yeah, that's definitely one reason why I hate people and I'm mad all the time. But most of it's that I work hospitality, which I really don't want to do that much. But yeah, it does make you just view all human interactions, especially talking, as work.
Yeah.
And exhausting.
Yeah. That's why I'm paying you for this episode.
No. You paid me in the movie recommendation.
I did. I tried, man. I hope it pays off. I hope you get an episode out of that one. But there is something about the culture we're living in as well. And I think it's more evident in city life. And there's this devaluing of humanity, of people in general. I'm the most important thing in the world, kind of deal. And it seems so, even me, I'm 42 years old and I've grown up around all this and the evolution of it all. And I don't recognize what is going on. I look around and I'm like, this is insanity. When you were one of the things I did, and what gave me the idea for the conversation with you, I knew I wanted to have you on because you and I got along so well, but I was like, what are we going to talk about? And one of the ideas for the conversation with you, as I listened to your episode with Buck, and some of the things you were talking about, just about the way that liberalism has destroyed art and culture, or art being tied to culture, is it's very reminiscent of what I see now that I look back and I'm like, oh, he's right. He understands what has happened.
Yeah, specifically in the 2010s, it was more like devastating to culture in the past 12 years than any other period that I can think of. It's just so intensely repressive and censorious, and all of the conventional well-funded channels for media, for movies, for television, whatever, they're all so stuck in this formulaic diversity driven like math equation of social utopianism, that you cannot create good art with these rules that liberals have set before you, because the purpose of art is to extrapolate and depict things about truths of human existence that are unspeakable, or just lying below the surface of your mind, in your subconscious. And things are only funny if they're true. Nothing can be funny because everything is rooted in social engineering now. So you just have totally mediocre utopian products that are extremely focus grouped. No one is like, no single artist is kind of allowed to direct their own vision. It's all done by committee now. And we see, I mean, it's not just conservatives that think everything sucks. Everybody thinks that movies suck now. They just aren't willing to explore the reasons why, because it's politically uncomfortable.
Yeah, and one of the examples you brought up that you and Buck were talking about was commercials. And I remember back in the day, even if people didn't like football, they would watch the Super Bowl just so they could see the commercials. And I guess I don't know if it was last year or the year before. I hadn't watched football in like 6 years, but I was like, oh, we're going to watch it because there's at least going to be some good commercials. And I saw the commercials and I was like, what the hell are these people doing? Like, this isn't funny. There's nothing interesting here. They're preaching at you.
They don't even depict the product in commercials anymore.
Yeah.
Like, commercials really became an art form in the 20th century, a corporate art form. And this is a lot of the reason for my interest in perfume at its peak in the 80s, 70s, 90s is that they would do these high concept, really crazy artistic things like Opium, Angel, Poison, with like provocative, dark names, brilliantly designed advertisements. Now, you look at commercials and the entire focus is on the engineered racial diversity of the actors, so much so that it becomes a total distraction. And the product is totally secondary. And also, above all, commercials used to be aspirational. They used to present the viewer with a fantasy lifestyle that would make you want to buy the product. And I always watch YouTube commercial compilations of old commercials, and then they work. I want to buy whatever it is, like whether it's cleaning products, soap, whatever it is. But now, when I see glimpses of real TV, when I go to my parents' house, it's just gray minimalist environments, weirdly cast actors, and social messaging. And that's it. And vague scolding, depression and scolding.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just like a bunch of preaching. Yeah, but I get what you're saying. It's just like, you got to do this. You're like, okay. But how do you think that's affected the culture? How do you think that has affected the way that people interact and go through their daily lives? Because it seems to have had an effect. And I can't tell. It's kind of like the chicken and the egg theory. I can't tell if the culture went downhill before everything we're seeing on television went downhill, or if television drugged the culture down that hill.
I place the point where things really got bad at about 2013. Before that, the 2000s were much the same as the 90s in most ways culturally. 2013 is when the multi-pronged tentacles of woke liberalism took hold, where we saw the moral panics over cultural appropriation and the renewed moral panic over campus rape, which eventually became Me Too, and the overall sex panic that we're living in right now that seems to have no end. I do think there was a deliberate effort of propaganda and ideology being deployed, and there was a slight delay as the movie makers and the people making the commercials and all of those responsible for culture caught up with the imperatives of this propaganda. So now you see it fully fleshed. You see their vision because everything is so, it's just a math equation. Like nothing is organic, nothing is natural. It's all about weird race science quotas. It all felt very deliberate to me and deployed.
Is this like Puritanism coming to its head and we're getting what it was always intended to be, or is this some kind of weird inversion of Puritanism?
Oh, it's Puritanism from the left. And this is something that conservatives often frustratingly don't seem to understand, because when you hear from a lot of conservatives, they seem to think that there's this like Dionysian bacchanalian orgy of like real sex occurring on the left. Okay, they think the left is constantly
I would be on the left.
Yeah. Golden age porno, college girls getting blacked at college, just gangbangs all the time. This is not true at all. There's nothing more sexless than the left. All of their obsession with sex is abstract and theoretical. So all of the gender theory stuff, their relentless focus on sex education, they only feel safe around the subject of sex when it's transmuted into this like childlike bureaucratic propaganda to be deployed in schools. But there's no sex happening on the left. It's just this distinction is crucial to me, because the sort of wish fulfillment of conservatives thinking that it's this very simple like leap off the cliff into total like degeneracy and depravity, or that people like Nancy Pelosi and like AOC, like their party, are like having any kind of literal sex. It's nonsense. It's all about control. It's all abstract and theoretical. It's all academic.
Hold on. You apparently didn't hear about moldy locks.
No, what's that?
Okay, so there was this chick a few years ago at one of these protests who attacked what were those guys called? The Proud Boys. Mm-hmm. She attacked one of the Proud Boys and he knocked her the fuck out, right? So she became all famous. She had like these dreadlocks, and come to find out she had videos on Pornhub, like fetish videos on Pornhub, and they started calling her moldy locks.
I mean, there is a degree of that, but even the sort of mainstream sex work thing that you see in the New York Times with OnlyFans,
yeah,
it's always depicted in our circles as like actual hardcore porn, when what most of that is just like girls chatting with guys and like milking them for money.
Right.
Like liberals would never give you the satisfaction of being able to just like pay for a satisfying product. Like it's all just this like temptation and everything.
Well, that's like when I found there was an article that came out a while back that said like OnlyFans is going to stop allowing pornography on their site. And I was like, okay, so Chatterbait stock is about to go up. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, I mean, there's
you're
already
not going
like
to stop it. You're not going to stop it. Like these people are going to figure out a way to show their boobs and get money.
Yeah, to a degree, I do feel like the internet already like sucks for pornography so much. Like Pornhub is just nothing. Tumblr really made a mistake when they destroyed their platform by getting rid of porn. But yeah, it's just we're living through the most severe moral panic about basic human sexuality that has ever occurred in human history, and this includes obviously the Victorian era. There has never been anything worse. Like people, this constant like superstitious magical witch hunt type thinking, I don't know how much longer it can go on. Like,
well, yeah, I mean, there's almost like this idea that the pussy is alchemical.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you're gonna have some kind of like crazy spell like cast on you if she squirts or something. And it's like, I don't even know how to take it half the time. I'm kind of like, because there was, I think, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's just my age, but I think in the 90s it was pretty healthy. I think there was like kind of a healthy, at least beginning to be healthier, but probably the healthiest time in American history was the 90s as far as sex goes, because you could talk about it, right? You could talk about sex, you could have honest conversations, and you still knew that there were consequences to the actions, right? And so today I look at it and people want to equate like being pro-life today to Roe versus Wade in the 80s. And I'm like, it's not the same time. We're talking about two different things. You're giving these people an out for their responsibility for their actions, right? Actions have consequences. And I'm not saying that abortion should be illegal, but I'm saying we should at least think about like what there is about it that was there that made people capable of talking about the action and what was going on and the responsibilities you were interacting in, because there was some responsibility there at one point in time, and now everything's so willy-nilly, willy-wally, as Beatrix would say, and you don't really get any like real honesty about it. And now it's just like, ooh, it's icky because the patriarchy, and it's like, what does that even fucking mean? What are you?
Yeah, it's all done in this very childish, immature way where,
right.
You know, the difference in the conversation around something like abortion prior to the 2010s is that pro-choice people used to be able to see the argument of pro-life people. Like there was a certain kind of mutual respect that completely isn't there. And now it's just about this open flaunting of like being as disgusting and offensive as possible about it.
That argument is always, and this is something I've said several times, and the reason I refuse to have that conversation with anybody is because that argument always turns into bad faith, and I'm not interested in it.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, but you're right. There was a respect, like you could, because you weren't talking about the woman's right or the life of a child as much as you were talking about responsibility of the people involved in the action, which is there's something there. There's something to be said about that. Like nobody wants to talk about responsibility nowadays.
Right. And you know, as far as how the larger puritanical conversation about sex has gone, with Me Too, the definition of like what constitutes rape has spun so far out into outer space that now they obviously don't use the word rape. It's just this vague idea of sexual assault. And it gotten to the point where anyone can retroactively magically alter the past so that they can, go back in time as if with a time machine and retract their own consent or their own responsibility for whatever situation they got into. There's just no grounding in objective reality. And the larger problem of the 2010s and the present moment is this dismissal, this stigmatization of any notion of the existence of objective reality, whether it's gender, but anything to do with biology, falsified elections. It's all just so rooted in this fanciful academic notion that nothing is real, or that the idea of anything being real is inherently problematic.
How much is the absence of masculinity to blame for this?
It's to blame for all of it. I don't think the men themselves are to blame, because it was done to them systemically.
Right. Yeah. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying socially. I remember you had said on Buck's podcast, which I thought was one of the funniest things I'd ever heard in my life, is you said every man nowadays is a bottom.
It's true.
And I no, it is true, but it just made me laugh, because I was just like, Jesus, like that. If you want to talk about a way to fucking say that,
Western civilization is dying because of an excess of bottoms, and I don't just mean the literal sexual act of getting fucked in the ass. I mean the whole identity of being like a helpless feminine creature with no masculine initiative, who never wants to make the first move. Because it's dangerous now. It's dangerous now to have any kind of masculine aggression or confidence whatsoever. You land in jail, or you end up being the subject of the day's social media spectral rape. But yeah, the larger degrading of men and masculinity happened over such a long period of time, and it was largely concurrent with the revival of feminism in the early 2010s, and this new snarky millennial friendly form typified by stuff like Jezebel. And in the 2000s, feminism was nowhere. Feminism was this thing in the past. Like all the girls I knew, including the like kind of grade grubby sort of like good girl types, they did not identify with the word feminist. They would say, oh no, what is that? Like hairy-legged women in the past. And then around 2011, it just, this Jezebel brand of snarky feminism took hold. And as a woman currently, as Sam Hyde said, you basically start out with your character maxed out. You have every advantage over men that you could possibly have. You get hired for every job over men. They get paid more. It's just the idea that men have these innate advantages in the current workplace or in culture at all right now is false. Women completely rule everything right now, and
I saw a guy.
We're seeing the results of like this excess of, like, to use their word, toxic femininity on the culture.
Yeah, I saw a guy. He tweeted earlier. He said, if you're so mad about white privilege and males having this patriarchy, quit rewarding those characteristics. And it's like, okay, yeah, like part of it are the characteristics that you've been rewarding are the characteristics that you attribute to men or white people, so that's not really my fault for being born with these characteristics. Quit rewarding those characteristics. Like you're doing this.
Well, and also everything that they say is a lie. You know, all the liberals are always like, men should be more comfortable showing their emotions. Everything toxic about masculinity is because men are not comfortable showing their emotions. The second a man shows their emotions or is sincere, they're brutally, ruthlessly mocked by the entire culture. Mm-hmm. The general bottom feeling of everything is because of a lack of patriarchs, a lack of any kind of conventional male authority figure for the last decade, because that is thought of as being this evil crime against humanity. But you see it everywhere. You see the desire for that everywhere. And something like Lana Del Rey, whose entire persona at the beginning was based around this desire for a daddy, you know, any kind of like conventional male authority figure. The idea of a daddy is fetishized now because it doesn't exist anymore. Everybody, like, men are nowhere. They're dressing up as women. They've been turned into Norman Bates from Psycho. The entire culture is feminine. The entire culture is bottoms.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things I was talking to a buddy of mine about a while back is you have these feminists that are always attacking and going after the Western man, and the Western man in general, not every one of us, but in general, is just apologetically just taking the beating and just taking the lashings. And then who are they apologizing for? The feminists are apologizing for Islam and Muslims that abuse women constantly and don't even treat them like humans. And you saw this also in Vietnam with the American military going into Vietnam and taking over that country and just completely degrading and humiliating all the men of that country, and the women running away with American men, right? So no matter what's coming out of their mouths, their actions are saying something else, right? Who are they going to? Who are they flooding to? They may tell you they don't like your domineering, personality and your overbearing stance, but they're running to men that are domineering, abusive, and overbearing, and so it's this mixed signal. And we're in a culture now that is just saying, okay, yes ma'am, you don't like it, okay, hit me harder, yes ma'am, just hit me harder. And you have these cultures out there like Islam that are like, you're a second class citizen, like, shut up, speak when spoken to, type deal. And they're treated like kings. And it's like, don't y'all see what's happening here? They're telling you what they want, but they're not telling you what they want by what they're saying. They're telling you what they want by how they act.
Right. Because they and most people right now really are hungry for any kind of rules or structure to their life, having abandoned the stabilizing force of religion, having abandoned any notion of objective biological reality or gender essentialism. They want some kind of structure in their lives. And for that, they look to the Democrat Party, or they look to Islam, or they look to basically anywhere besides the United States in 2021, where people are more grounded and make more sense. And their thing with Islam, that's always been funny to me. That was like an early red pill in 2014, 2015, where Islam was constantly being talked about And I remember the first time I was like around one of my feminist friends, and it was right after the Charlie Hebdo newspaper shooting had happened. And I was like really freaked out by that. And my female friend just goes, well, they shouldn't have stirred the pot. And this chilling phrase that they use, stir the pot or stir the ant pile, that's what like female liberals always say when anything bad happens to white men. They shouldn't have stirred the pot. But then I came to realize that every single woman around me thought that. They all thought that. It's just an inherent kind of like mad at daddy kind of thing where every other culture is excused because there's this distance between an American white woman and Islam.
I don't even know if that's like the entire story. I think I think they want that masculinity.
Oh, they do, absolutely.
And they want you to stand up and tell them that they're being a stupid cunt and to shut the fuck up sometimes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but they've been trained through all of these institutions to believe that conventional masculinity is bad, gender roles are bad. They've been through the Pink Floyd, Another Brick in the Wall meat grinder, so that where they've learned that all of their natural biological desires are wrong.
What did she say after the shooting in Dallas?
If it basically the formula is that if a white man is getting killed, then they deserve it. But if it's some kind of minority, that happened after.
Yeah, no, it happened after it was a reaction.
I don't remember what she said, but basically they like pick and choose which ones they respond to. And now everyone's brains are so like
they're mush
fried,
yeah,
fried by the lack of objective reality and fried by a year and a half of this COVID psyop that nobody even has any consistent like opinions of anything. It's all so like magical and spur of the moment.
What do you think? One of the things I noticed during Donald Trump's presidency was the amount of women that were excited about Donald Trump, which I don't know if I'd ever seen that amount of women excited about a president before. Do you think that had something to do with his masculinity and actually being able to show it?
Oh, absolutely. And also, no one hates Hillary more than boomer mothers. No one hates Hillary Clinton more than other women. Yeah, they absolutely hate Hillary, like way out of proportion to, like my opinion of Hillary or anything. Like my mother everyone's mother, there's just this revulsion at the idea of Hillary Clinton that's really funny. And that played a large part in it as well.
Yeah, well.
But Trump being like funny, charming, conventionally masculine in this way that you simply don't see anymore. Yeah, that played a huge part in his appeal.
I don't know if he was charming, but he was funny. He was hilarious.
He was totally charming. I love him.
You think so? Okay. I'll give you that because maybe I just missed it. I was too busy laughing for 4 years. Maybe I just missed it. It's possible. I just didn't see it.
Yeah.
So, all right, we don't have a whole lot of time left. I know you got to get ready for work and all that good jazz. Mm-hmm. So, but one thing I do want to cover is one thing you did say. I don't remember who asked you over the weekend, but somebody asked you, I think it was Josh Childress, asked you, so you think you're from the right? Or so you claim to, so you identify with the right? And you said yes. I wanted to kind of dig into this nationalist stance that you have. Where does that come from? What is it that you think? I kind of get your idea of how the culture's been destroyed by liberals, but it's one of those things where there's so many people running to the left, and if they can't be happy with liberals, they just keep going left. That you didn't do that. So how did you wind up in the nationalist or right stand?
Basically, at the start of the 2010s, I first noticed that all of my liberal friends were becoming increasingly pro-censorship, and the notion of free speech was being demonized in this very casual way that kept ramping up. And this had never even occurred to me that this would happen. So fast forward, and basically every Democrat policy that is implemented has the result of making things run poorly, be more expensive, shittier in every way, ideologically do-gooder, annoying. Nothing good comes from Democrats. So mainly I'm on the right because of my total hatred of the Democrat Party. And I'm not even that intricately political. I will vote against Democrats for the rest of my life, is basically the extent of my politics, because everything poisonous comes from that side. Like every little thing that they do, every little green thing, plastic bag bans was one of the early ones, where they get these little do-gooder notions, religious notions of improving the world that simply make everything shittier and more expensive and have no positive long-term results for anyone. And we're seeing the results right now of total authoritarian Democrat rule, making everyone's life completely shitty. I think that blame has to be squarely placed on the left. Everything bad that has occurred over the last 12 years has been because of the left. I don't think there's any way around this. A lot of people kind of try to absolve themselves of problematic political responsibility by doing these fantasies that both sides are the same. No, one side is worse. Democrats are worse. Like I'm really grateful that I was able to listen to Rush Limbaugh throughout the mid 2010s and be instructed about the true nature of the Democrat Party and how it operates as this fundraising apparatus that masks itself in do-gooder social issues that it constantly has to make up and change. Yeah, I don't know. But it started with censorship.
Yeah. Has there been any political person on the left that you identified with more than others that you're kind of sympathetic to at times?
No, because it's been so long. Like the fact that so many people are like just now kind of waking up to the machinations of liberals in 2021 after they've initiated COVID Part 2 is insane to me. Like these people have stayed quiet the last 5-6 years through all of the media insanity and lies of Trump's term. And the only reason to be a leftist is to preserve your social status. I firmly believe that. There is no like innate positive or like benevolent.
It's a virtue signal.
Yeah, but there's no like innate benevolence underlying why someone would be a leftist. It's entirely based on social approval, social status, and class. And this lie that there's like something morally good underlying that machine has to be debunked. It's just an all-consuming cloud, an all-consuming black cloud.
Where do you think that started in history? Because most people in my camp, like I come more from the libertarian side of things, so most people in my camp kind of trace this back to like Woodrow Wilson, right? And the advent of the Federal Reserve and all the things that Woodrow Wilson did. But culturally, Woodrow Wilson wasn't really that involved. It was more on the financial side of things. I think culturally, I would trace it back to what was that guy's name? I can see his face. He was the vice president under Kennedy, and I just can't think of his name. Johnson.
Oh yeah, LBJ.
LBJ, thank you.
Who went to Texas State, my alma mater.
Did you go to Texas State?
I did.
We'll have to talk about the university sometime too. But yeah, so I don't really see any president like extremely involved in culture before LBJ. I really think he was the one who made it popular to get involved in culture from a federal level. Do you have a different view on that? Do you have some kind of different take on that?
I mean, I don't have broad enough like political historical knowledge to like accurately trace that back to the root. But as far as the 2010s liberalism that I speak of, it came from Obama's second term, where racism, which had been solved as best as that can be solved in the 90s and 2000s with this kind of coexist multiculturalism that's made fun of now, but was actually really effective. Basically, they taught us don't judge people by the color of their skin and evaluate everyone as an individual. Which is a valuable lesson, not the kind of like genocidal, whites are responsible for original sin type of thing that they teach now. But yeah, Obama's second term, when racism was very cynically resurrected for profit, that was where the social justice warrior was born, though it had obviously existed since the beginning of time, basically. Like if you watch D.W. Griffith's Intolerance from 1916 or 1917, one of the plot lines in it is about meddling woman reformers. So like early feminists, unattractive women, being do-gooder busybodies and helping to implement policies that bring down the quality of everyone's life and result in catastrophe for this one character.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know any black people that would say that Obama is blacker than either you or I.
No.
So, yeah. I'm definitely blacker than that motherfucker.
Yeah, me too. I mean, my tastes and everything. I like the gaudy shit, gaudy nouveau riche type of stuff. And yeah,
dude, I want to see you in a zoot suit. You would look fucking class in a zoot suit, dude.
Yeah, I would love it.
All right. Well, let's plug, dude.
I am on Patreon, patreon.com/Perfume Nationalist. Every other episode is paywalled. To get the entire story, you have to subscribe, but there are tons and tons of free episodes on Apple Podcasts and Libsyn, so that you can try it out. Yeah, that's it.
So much of the focus of my podcast is to point out abuses of power and how bad things have gotten and the direction in which we're heading as a society. And it can be a real black pill. I've partnered up with Richard Grove to offer my listeners an opportunity to sign up to his Autonomy Course. The Autonomy Course is designed for people looking for solutions, people that want to shape their own future, people that are not willing to be at the behest of large corporations or the United States government or the banking system. The Autonomy Course is designed for those of you who wish to have complete control of the reins of your life, who are looking to be successful, to thrive and not just survive, to provide for your family by utilizing your existing skills and learning how to market and sell those skills in order to be your own boss, or learn new skills in order to leverage that into a new career opportunity. So if there's a job out there you've been trying to get or you've been wishing you could get, but you just don't have the skills for it, the Autonomy Course is the place for you to start, to learn how to land that position, to learn how to market yourself better, to gain confidence, and to be surrounded by a community of like-minded people that will encourage you and help you along the way. So use my affiliate links and go check out the Autonomy Course. It could be right for you.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on, brother. I really do appreciate it. I enjoy chatting with you. You're extremely informative and interesting to me. And maybe that's just because, I'm a bottom at heart.
Well, thanks, man. Thanks for having me on. It's great to talk to you as well.
I want to do it again for sure. And
yeah, please.
We'll dig into some of these other subjects, and we'll try to offend as many people as possible. That's my goal.
Let's do it.
All right, man. Well, you have a good day at work. We'll talk to you later.
You too. Tell Beatrix hi.
she just texted me a second ago. She landed in Kentucky. So I'm going to let her know that I just got off with you and that you love her as much as she loves you.
Absolutely.
All right, dude. Have a good day.
Later, man.
Bye.
Said you're just a slave. All your good intentions took you to your grave. Your pride is how they killed you. With the flag you waved just like a fool. They promised you a mountain, gifted you a stone. They demanded that you throw it into your neighbor's home, and then seize all that they worked for and give it to the throne just like a tool. Well, as we all just stand in line and glorify new ways of being cruel, it seems to me humanity is not something that they're teaching us in school. They dumbs down all around, propaganda, their pollution. They set a cage up on the stage, a facade for all solution. They build a wall, block them all from this mental institution. It's insane. Now they're writing their own rule books and they're crossing all their T's. They're fashioning their people to all wear beggars' knees. If you want a clean drink of water, well, you must say pretty please. It's all a game. As we all just stand in line and justify these crimes done in our names, it seems to me authority and tyranny are both one and the same. Change the channel, it's time to set things right. Make them all rot with fear in their beds at night. Devour all their worthless souls and sacrificial right, just like we should. up like cordwood, watch them sizzle on the flames for good. Well, as we all just stand in line waiting for some kind of Robin Hood, our liberty will never be until our right to freedom is understood.